The city of Zerion Prime never slept. Neon lights burned all night. Flying cars roared above the streets and tall alien towers touched the clouds. It was a city of power, wealth, and pride. But beneath the tall glass towers, in the cold alleys where no light reached, lived a human. No one knew his real name. To the aliens, he was simply called the Outcast. He slept on broken crates wrapped in torn cloth. He ate what he could find in trash piles or begged from travelers who pitied him. His face was thin, his eyes hollow and his hair messy like wild grass. Every step he took in the city made people whisper behind him. "Witch!" one alien mother hissed as she pulled her child away. "Dangerous human," another said, crossing the street. No one trusted him. No one helped him. And yet he survived. Rumors about him were many. Some said he had once cursed a trader who refused to give him food, and the trader's business collapsed the next day. Others claimed they had seen him muttering strange words in the dark, words not of their world. And once a young guard swore he saw the human's hands glow faintly while touching an injured bird. "Witchcraft," the guard shouted. "Humans are not natural. They carry dark power." Since then, people kept their distance. Children threw stones at him. Merchants shouted for him to leave their stalls. Guards warned him to stay out of sight. Still, the human never shouted back. He never fought. He only walked slowly, eyes lowered as if carrying a weight too heavy to explain. One cold night, the Outcast sat near the river that cut through the city. The water glowed faintly from the lights of the towers. He stared at his reflection. His eyes looked tired, but there was something else inside them. Something sharp, something hidden. He remembered Earth. He remembered warm streets, the sound of laughter, the smell of bread. But Earth was far, far away now. He was trapped here on a world that hated him. His stomach growled. He pulled out a piece of old bread, hard as stone, and chewed it slowly. He coughed, and a group of aliens passing by laughed at him. "Look at him," one sneered. "Cursed beggar." "He should be thrown into the pit," another added. The human ignored them. But inside his chest burned with quiet pain. The city was cruel, but it was not silent. Every corner had its secrets. That night, the Outcast heard whispers carried by the wind. Something was wrong in the upper towers. A sickness, strange and deadly, had struck a powerful family. The richest man in Zerion Prime, a billionaire with influence across planets, was said to be in despair. His only daughter was dying. The best alien doctors had failed. No medicine, no machine, no healer could cure her. The whispers grew louder. Maybe it is the curse of the human. Yes, the witch. He brings bad luck. Catch him. Make him pay. The Outcast felt the shift in the air. He had seen this before. Fear always needed a target, and the target was always him. He walked quickly through the alleys, trying to disappear into the shadows. But eyes followed him. Words turned into shouts. "There! The witch! Stop him! Bring him before the council!" Guards appeared, their armor shining under the neon lights. The human froze as their spears, glowing with energy, pointed at his chest. The crowd gathered, chanting for justice, for punishment. He lifted his hand slowly. His heart was calm, though his body trembled. He knew what was coming. The guards dragged him through the streets. Children ran after them, throwing stones. Adults cursed, spit, and laughed. The human's face was blank, unreadable. Yet inside, he thought of the sick girl in the tower. He thought of her weak breath, her frightened eyes. He thought of what he might do if only they allowed him to try, but they would not. Not yet. They pulled him into the central square of Zerion Prime. A tall statue of an alien warrior stood there, symbol of pride and strength. Beneath it, the human was thrown to the ground. "Witch!" The crowd roared. "Kill him! Burn him!" The Outcast raised his head. His lips did not move, but his eyes. His eyes burned with quiet fire. He was tired of running, tired of hiding, tired of being treated like dirt. Yet he did not hate them. Not truly. He only pitied them. They did not know what he really was. They did not know what he could do. And soon they would find out. The square of Zerion Prime was alive with noise. The human sat on the cold ground, hands tied behind his back as the alien crowd shouted for his death. The night air was thick with anger. Every voice was a blade cutting into him. But then the shouting changed. A sudden silence spread like a wave. The people turned their heads. Guards stepped aside. A tall figure was approaching. It was Lord Xylar, the billionaire alien, father of the dying girl. His long coat shimmered with silver threads, his eyes hard as steel. Behind him, Glowing banners of his family floated, showing his power. The crowd bowed in fear and respect. Lord Xylar's voice cut through the silence. "Is this the human?" he asked. "Yes, my lord," a guard replied. "The witch of the streets. The people demand justice." The alien lord's jaw tightened. He looked down at the human, studying him like a puzzle. Far above, in a tower of glass, the billionaire's daughter lay pale and weak. Her skin glowed faintly blue, veins showing like cracks in glass. Doctors had come from across the stars. Machines hummed around her bed. Yet nothing worked. Each hour her breath grew thinner. Rumors said no one had more wealth or power than Lord Xylar. He could buy ships, armies, even planets. But he could not buy life. He could not save his only child. And so his anger turned toward the human. The crowd began to shout again. "Kill him! Throw him into the pit!" He cursed the child. The human lifted his head. His face was dirty, his lips dry, but his eyes were calm. He spoke softly, and though his voice was quiet, everyone heard it. "I cursed no one." The crowd hissed. Stones were raised, but Lord Xylar lifted his hand, and silence fell again. "If you did not curse her," Xylar said, his voice heavy, "then perhaps you can heal her." Gasps filled the air. "Impossible!" Someone shouted. "He will kill her," another warned. "Do not trust the witch." But Xylar did not listen. His eyes burned with desperation. He had no choice left. The human was dragged to his feet. His wrists were cut free, though guards kept their weapons close. The crowd followed as Xylar led him toward the towering palace. Every step echoed with tension. The human walked silently, but inside his thoughts raced. He had waited for this moment, not in hope, but in certainty. Sooner or later, fate would bring him before the powerful. Sooner or later, they would need what only he carried. Inside the palace, the air smelled of perfume and metal. Walls glowed with soft light. Guards stood at every corner, their armor shining like mirrors. Servants whispered, eyes wide at the sight of the human. Finally, they reached the chamber. The girl lay on a floating bed, her body fragile, her breath shallow. She was only a child, perhaps 12. Her skin shimmered faintly, the sign of her alien bloodline, but her small hands trembled with weakness. The human stepped closer. He felt the weight of the room, the father's fear, the guard's suspicion, the silent prayers of the servants. "Save her," Lord Xylar said, voice breaking. "Save her and you may live. Fail, and you will die." The human looked at the girl. For a moment, the world around him vanished. He saw only her face, her struggle, her pain, and something deep inside him stirred. He remembered another child, a small hand clutching his own, a face from long ago, from Earth now lost forever. His chest ached, but his eyes softened. He knelt beside the bed. The guards raised their weapons. "Do not move too close," one barked. But Lord Xylar lifted his hand. "Let him try." The human touched the girl's wrist gently. Her skin was cold, her pulse weak. He closed his eyes. For a moment, silence, then a faint warmth spread from his palm. The girl stirred. Her lips parted, and a whisper escaped. "Light." The glow grew brighter, soft and golden, unlike any alien medicine. The servants gasped. The guards froze. Even Lord Xylar's eyes widened. The girl's breathing slowed, steady and calm. Her trembling stopped. Color returned to her cheeks. She opened her eyes, clear, bright, alive. "Father," she whispered. Lord Xylar rushed forward, falling to his knees beside her. His powerful voice cracked as he took her hand. "My child, you live." The crowd outside had not seen, but inside the chamber the truth was undeniable. The human had done what no doctor, no machine, no medicine could. He had healed her, but the silence did not last. One of the guards growled. "It is witchcraft," he said, his voice hard. "He must be killed before he curses us all." Others nodded, fear growing in their eyes. Lord Xylar stood slowly. His face was a storm, part joy, part suspicion. He turned to the human who still knelt by the bed, breathing heavily. "Who are you?" Xylar demanded. "What power is this?" The human raised his head. His voice was calm but heavy with hidden truth. "I am no witch," he said. "I am only a man, but I carry what your world has forgotten." The chamber fell silent again. The girl sat up, smiling faintly, her eyes fixed on the human as if she saw something no one else could. Lord Xylar did not answer. His heart was torn between gratitude and fear. The city outside waited for judgment. Would the billionaire announce that the human was a savior? or a monster? The answer would decide the fate of the outcast. The chamber still glowed faintly from the miracle. The billionaire's daughter sat upright on her floating bed, her breathing calm and steady. The golden light that had touched her body was gone, but its memory hung heavy in the air. The guards whispered among themselves. Servants bowed their heads, too frightened to speak. Only two voices mattered in that moment: the desperate father and the mysterious human who had healed his child. Lord Xylar stood tall, but his hands shook. He was a man who ruled over businesses, armies, and entire colonies. Yet now, standing before the ragged human, he felt small. You, Xylar's voice cracked. You saved her. And yet, his eyes narrowed. How? What are you? The human said nothing at first. He looked at the girl, who now smiled weakly at him, her pale face glowing with life. He lowered his gaze as if afraid that answering would reveal too much. The silence was broken by a guard. His voice was loud, sharp with fear. This is sorcery. He will curse us all. Kill him before the sickness spreads. Another guard added quickly, Yes, my lord, do not trust him. He is a danger. His powers are unnatural. The words struck the chamber like stones. Servants looked up with frightened eyes. Even the girl sitting up on her bed seemed worried. Lord Xylar's face hardened. He was torn between two worlds, the gratitude of a father and the suspicion of a ruler. He could not show weakness, not here, not before his people. He turned to the human. If you are no witch, then prove it. Speak, tell us what you are. The human raised his head slowly. His eyes, dark and steady, locked onto the billionaire's. His voice was calm, almost too calm. I am not your enemy, he said. I did not curse your daughter. I healed her because I could, because it was right. The words were simple, but they carried weight. Still the guard scoffed. Lies, one spat. He hides his true power, another sneered. No beggar can do this. But then a soft voice cut through the tension. Father. The girl's words silenced the room. She reached out, her small hand trembling. Her fingers pointed toward the human. He saved me, she whispered. I felt it. His touch was not cold. It was warm, like light. He is not a witch. He is good. Her plea struck deeper than any weapon. Lord Xylar looked at his daughter, his only child, the treasure of his heart. She had spoken with honesty, with the innocence of one who had faced death and returned. The billionaire's jaw tightened. He looked back at the human. For the first time in years, Xylar felt something strange, something almost like humility. You may have saved her, he said slowly, but outside this chamber, the city screams for your blood. The people fear you. They demand your death. If I defend you, they will turn on me. The human stayed silent, but his gaze did not waver. You know what they call you? Xylar continued. Witch, curse, plague. They see you as a shadow that walks among them. If I let you go, they will hunt you again. If I protect you, they may rebel. So tell me, why should I not hand you over to them right now? The human finally spoke, his voice low but unshaken. Because one day, Lord Xylar, you will need me again. This world is not safe. Sickness, war, hunger, they will come no matter how rich you are. And when they come, your people will remember this moment. They will remember the man you called a witch who gave life when all others failed. The room fell silent. Even the guards lowered their weapons slightly. The words were bold, almost dangerous, but they carried truth. Lord Xylar's eyes narrowed. You speak like a prophet. Do you see the future? The human shook his head. No, I only know what always comes. The girl pulled on her father's sleeve. Her voice was soft but filled with urgency. Do not kill him, father, please. If you kill him, I will never forgive you. He is the reason I am alive. Let him stay. Let him live. It was not a command, but it struck like one. The billionaire looked at her, his heart torn. For all his power, he could not deny his daughter. She was the only one who had the right to speak in that moment. Xylar exhaled slowly, then turned back to the human. You live. For now, he said coldly. But hear me well. The people will not forgive this. They will not believe it was mercy. To them, you are still a danger. And if you betray me, if you harm her, I will burn this city to the ground just to take you with it. The guards lowered their weapons but did not relax. The servants bowed and hurried from the room. The human remained kneeling, his eyes on the floor, though a quiet fire still glowed within them. The girl leaned closer, her voice barely a whisper. What is your name? The human hesitated. He had not spoken his true name in years, not since leaving Earth, not since becoming the outcast. But something in her voice, in her innocence, broke his silence. "Daniel," he said quietly. The girl smiled. "Thank you, Daniel." The moment was small, but it shifted everything. The crowd outside still demanded his death. The council would soon hear of this. Enemies would rise. But in that chamber, for the first time, Daniel was not the outcast. He was a man with a name. A man with a secret. And though the billionaire's warning hung heavy in the air, another truth was clear. Daniel's story was only beginning. The chamber doors shut with a deep echo, locking out the restless noise of the city. Inside, silence fell like heavy cloth. Only the faint hum of medical machines filled the air. Daniel, the human once called outcast, stood near the floating bed where the girl now rested. Her face was pale but calm, her eyes half open as if drifting between dreams and waking. Her father, Lord Xylar, stood on one side, arms folded tightly across his chest. The guards lingered at the corners of the room, their hands still gripping their weapons. None trusted the human, even after what they had seen. The air carried a strange tension. Everyone was waiting. Everyone was afraid. Daniel slowly lowered himself onto one knee beside the girl. He did not rush. His movements were steady, careful, as though every gesture had weight. He looked at her small hands trembling against the sheets, then at her shallow breaths. Her lips parted slightly. A whisper escaped. "Cold, so cold." Daniel closed his eyes. He placed his hand gently over hers. His skin was rough, scarred from years of hardship, yet his touch was soft. For a moment, nothing happened. The guards exchanged uneasy glances. One muttered, "Witch tricks." Another whispered, "He's useless." But then a faint glow appeared. It began as a thin shimmer beneath his fingertips, like golden dust caught in the air. The glow spread, weaving across the girl's skin, filling her with warmth. Her breathing changed, slow but deeper, each breath steadier than the last. The servants gasped. One of them covered her mouth with trembling hands. The glow grew brighter. It wrapped around her chest, her face, her fragile frame. The golden light pulsed gently, not harsh or violent, but alive, like the rhythm of a heart. Daniel's brow furrowed. Healing was never easy. Every time he gave life, a weight pressed into him, pulling at his own strength. But he did not stop. He focused on the girl's fragile spirit, guiding her back from the edge of darkness. The girl stirred. Her eyes fluttered open, clear and bright for the first time in weeks. She looked around the chamber, then back at Daniel. "Warm," she whispered again, but this time her voice was not weak. It carried life. Lord Xylar took a step forward, disbelief written on his face.
She speaks?"
His voice cracked, stripped of the power it usually carried. "Yes, Father," the girl said softly, turning her head toward him. "I'm not afraid anymore. The darkness is gone." The guards stepped back in shock. They had seen injuries healed by alien medicine, diseases slowed by machines, but never this. Never life given back so simply, so purely. One guard dropped his weapon to the floor. Another pressed his back against the wall, eyes wide in fear. "It cannot be," one muttered. "This is not science, this is something else." But the girl smiled, her small hand still holding Daniel's tightly. "He saved me," she said clearly, her voice stronger now. "He is no witch. He is light." Daniel finally pulled his hand back. The glow faded, but the warmth remained. He let out a long breath, his shoulders heavy, his body trembling slightly. Healing always took from him. But he looked at the girl's bright eyes, and for a moment the weight felt worth carrying. Lord Xylar dropped to his knees beside his daughter. His powerful hands shook as he touched her face. Tears filled his eyes, tears no one had ever seen him shed. "My child," he whispered. "You live. You live." The girl leaned into him, smiling weakly. "Because of him." She pointed toward Daniel. The room was split in two. On one side, the father and daughter joined in gratitude. On the other side, the guards and servants, their eyes sharp with suspicion and fear. One guard spoke up, voice rough with anger. "Do not trust him, my lord. This is unnatural. If he can heal, he can also kill. What if he turns this power against us?" Murmurs of agreement filled the room. Some whispered of curses, of hidden dangers, of doom. Daniel did not respond. He sat quietly, head lowered, too tired to argue. He knew the truth. Fear always spoke louder than gratitude. Lord Xylar rose slowly to his feet. His face was a storm of emotion, relief, confusion, suspicion. He looked at Daniel with eyes that searched for answers. "You saved her," Xylar said, his voice trembling between respect and threat. "No doctor, no machine, no healer in this city could do what you just did. Yet you, a homeless human and outcast, have done the impossible. Tell me, what are you?" Daniel lifted his head. His eyes were calm, though his body was weak. "I am only a man," he said quietly. "But I carry what your people have forgotten, compassion and the will to heal, not harm." The words struck the chamber like a blade, simple yet sharp. Some servants bowed their heads, ashamed. Others shook with anger, unwilling to believe. The girl spoke again, her small voice filled with certainty.
"Father, keep him safe."
"He is not our enemy. He is my friend." Lord Xylar clenched his fists. His mind raced. He knew the truth of her words, but he also knew the reality outside these walls. The city would never accept this man. The council would never allow him to live freely, and yet without him, his daughter would already be gone. The billionaire finally turned to the guards. His command was cold, sharp, final. "He lives," Xylar declared. "No one touches him." Gasps echoed. The guards hesitated, but none dared defy him. Daniel remained silent, though inside he felt the storm building. He had won this moment, but he knew it would not last. Fear always returned. The girl smiled at him again, her eyes shining. For the first time in years, Daniel felt seen. But beyond the palace walls, the city still roared for his death. And in the shadows, greater dangers were already watching. The night sky above Zarian Prime was restless. Neon towers glowed, but down in the square, torches burned with angry light. The crowd had not dispersed. They waited, hungry for judgment. They had seen the human dragged inside the palace, and now they demanded to see him again. "Witch!" voices roared. "Kill the outcast! Justice for the curse!" Fear and hatred made the air heavy. Mothers held their children close. Guards stood with weapons ready, and whispers of dark magic spread like fire through the city. Inside the palace, Lord Xylar stood tall, though his face was tight with worry. His daughter, once pale and dying, now walked at his side. She leaned on his arm, weak but smiling. Her steps were unsteady, but each one was proof of life. Behind them, Daniel, the human, walked slowly, guarded on both sides. His hands were no longer tied, but spears remained close to his chest. Every guard's eyes burned with suspicion. The great doors creaked open. The blinding light of the torches spilled inside. And then the three of them, billionaire, daughter, and outcast, stepped out together. The crowd froze. At first, silence, then gasps. The girl, alive, stood before them. She was pale but strong, her eyes clear. Every citizen had heard the rumors. She was dying beyond saving. Yet here she was, holding her father's arm, alive because of the human at her side. "She lives?" one whispered. "Impossible," another said. No medicine could have done this." The whispers turned into shouts. "It's a trick. He bewitched her. She smiles because she is cursed." Lord Xylar raised his hand for silence. His voice thundered across the square. "My daughter lives. You all know she was dying. Every doctor failed. Every cure failed. But this man," he pointed at Daniel, "this man saved her." The words struck the crowd like thunder. Some bowed their heads, moved by his honesty. Others snarled, their fear turning to rage. One merchant shouted, "No human can heal. He uses dark magic to control her." Another screamed, "He has cursed her soul. She will die again tomorrow." The girl stepped forward, her small voice carrying across the square. "He is no witch," she said, lifting her chin bravely. "He gave me light when everything was dark. He saved me." Her words silenced the mob for a moment. No one expected the child to speak, let alone defend the human. But even innocence could not kill fear. A voice from the back roared, "He is dangerous. Today he heals, tomorrow he destroys. Kill him before he curses us all." The crowd stirred again, like a storm ready to break. Daniel stood quietly, eyes lowered. He did not shout back. He did not beg. His silence made the crowd even more restless. To them, silence was guilt. Lord Xylar's jaw tightened. He turned to his people. "Listen to me," he commanded. "I do not fear him. And neither should you. Without him, my daughter would be dead. You owe her life to him." But his words were met with more anger. "You trust a witch over your people? You have been fooled by his tricks. Burn him." The guards shifted uneasily. They were sworn to obey Xylar, but they were also children of the city. Their families were in the crowd. Their hearts trembled between loyalty and fear. Xylar knew the truth. He could not control the people forever. Fear was louder than gratitude. If he protected the human openly, the council itself might rise against him. The girl clung to her father's sleeve, eyes wide. "Don't let them hurt him," she whispered. "Please, father." Her words cut into him like knives. He had power, but even he could not silence the city. Daniel finally lifted his head. His voice was calm but heavy, carrying across the crowd. "You fear me because you do not understand me," he said. "You call me witch, but I'm only a man. I carry no curse. I have no wish to harm you. I only wish to heal, to bring light where there is darkness." His words were simple, yet they struck deep. Some in the crowd lowered their torches. Others looked away, ashamed. But many still shouted, louder than before, "Lies! Deceiver! Kill him before it is too late." Lord Xylar knew he had to end it before chaos consumed the square. He raised his hand again, his voice sharp and final. "This man lives under my protection," he declared. "No one will touch him. Any hand raised against him will answer to me." The crowd gasped. Some bowed in obedience, but others snarled with hatred. The seeds of division were planted. The girl stepped closer to Daniel, her small hand brushing his. She smiled, her voice soft but clear. "You are not alone anymore," she whispered. But even as the moment settled, Daniel felt the truth. He had won no victory here. He had saved a life, yes, but he had also lit a fire of fear and anger that would not easily die. From the shadows of the square, unseen by most, figures watched quietly, robed, masked, their eyes glowing faintly. Members of the High Council, they spoke in whispers, their voices like snakes. "The human is dangerous. He threatens the order. He must be removed." As the crowd dispersed reluctantly, Daniel felt their eyes on him. Not the eyes of the poor or the merchants, not even the guards, but the eyes of something far more powerful. The girl smiled at him with trust. The father glared at him with suspicion. And in the darkness, the council marked him as a danger to their world. The reveal had changed everything. Daniel was no longer just an outcast. He was a name, a threat, a spark, and sparks always lit fires. The palace grew quiet after the storm of the square. The heavy doors closed, muffling the voices of the angry crowd outside. Guards remained at every corner, their armor gleaming, their hands tight on their weapons. Daniel sat in the center of the great hall, alone on a stone bench. His clothes were torn, his body weak from the healing, but his back remained straight. He did not bow his head, nor did he plead. The silence stretched until finally the sound of heavy steps echoed across the marble floor. Lord Xylar entered, his silver cloak trailing behind him. His daughter walked beside him, still pale but stronger than she had been in weeks. She held her father's hand, though her eyes stayed fixed on Daniel. Xylar stopped a few steps away. His gaze was sharp, unreadable. For a long time he said nothing. The hall felt colder with his silence. At last his voice cut through the stillness. "You should be dead," the words echoed like thunder. Guards shifted, waiting for the command to strike, but Xylar continued. "The people want your blood. The council whispers against you. Even my own guards fear you. Yet my daughter lives because of you, and for that, I cannot kill you." The girl's grip on his hand tightened. "Father, he saved me. You must protect him." Xylar's jaw clenched, his eyes softening for only a moment as he looked at her. Then his face hardened again. He stepped closer to Daniel, lowering his voice so only the human could hear. "You will not be free. You will not walk these streets as if you belong here. The city will never accept you, but under my roof you will have food, shelter, and safety. That is my offer." Daniel studied him. His voice, when it came, was calm. "And what do you ask in return?" Xylar's eyes narrowed. "Loyalty. You live because I allow it. You breathe because I protect you. You will never forget that." The words were sharp, but behind them Daniel heard the truth. Xylar was not only bargaining for power, he was bargaining for his daughter's future, and perhaps his own peace of mind. Daniel lowered his gaze, not in submission, but in thought. After years of being hunted, after years of being called witch, curse, and outcast, a roof and protection sounded like mercy. But he knew the truth. Safety offered by a ruler always came with chains. "I do not seek wealth," Daniel said quietly. "I do not seek power. If you give me a place, I will not waste it, but I will not be your weapon. The guards bristled at his boldness. One stepped forward, spear raised. You dare speak so to Lord Xylar? Xylar lifted a hand, silencing him. His eyes stayed locked on Daniel. Not a weapon? He asked slowly. Then what are you? Daniel's answer was simple but heavy. A healer. Nothing more. The girl smiled at his words, her eyes bright. She stepped toward him, ignoring the guard's protests. You can teach us, she said softly. Teach me. What you did? It felt like sunlight in the dark. I want to learn, the guards muttered, horrified. A noble child learning from a human outcast? It was unthinkable. But Daniel's eyes softened as he looked at her. Healing is not power, he said gently. It is responsibility. And it comes with a price. The girl tilted her head. Then let me pay it. Xylar's face darkened, but he said nothing. For the first time, he saw not only his daughter's health restored, but her will awakening. The human was not just a healer. He was becoming an influence. Xylar turned away, pacing slowly across the hall. His voice carried with controlled anger. You have made my daughter believe in you. That alone makes you dangerous. If the council learns she trusts you, they will strike sooner. They will not allow a human to become a symbol of hope. He spun back to face Daniel. So I make this clear, stay close to me. Accept my protection, or you will not live to see another sunrise. Daniel's calm expression did not change, but his mind turned. He had survived years alone, chased, hated, beaten. Now he was offered a place, though one wrapped in chains of suspicion. It was not freedom, but it was a chance. He rose slowly from the bench, his thin frame casting a long shadow in the torchlight. I will accept your protection, he said softly, not for fear of death, but because there may be more lives to save. Xylar studied him for a long moment. Then with a sharp nod he declared, Then we have a deal. You live under my roof, you eat at my table. But remember this, human. Your life belongs to me now. The guards relaxed slightly, though their eyes stayed sharp. The servants whispered from the corners. And the girl, smiling faintly, whispered to Daniel as she passed him, You are not alone anymore. Daniel said nothing. But deep inside he knew the truth. He was not safe. He was not free. He was caught between gratitude and fear, between protection and chains. And in the shadows beyond the palace walls, the council whispered his name. They saw not a healer, but a threat to their control. The deal was made. But every deal carried a cost. The days that followed were quiet on the surface, but beneath the silence, trouble brewed. Inside Lord Xylar's palace, Daniel was given a room, not grand, not poor, but secure. Guards stood outside his door at all times, watching him as though he were a prisoner dressed as a guest. He ate better than he had in years, no longer digging through scraps, yet every bite reminded him of the chains tied to his safety. The daughter, young and bright, visited often. She carried books, questions, and endless curiosity. Show me how you healed me, she begged. Teach me. Daniel never refused her, but his lessons were not what she expected. He did not speak of glowing light or secret powers. Instead, he spoke of simple things, listening, patience, kindness. Healing is not in the hands, he told her. It is in the heart. A hand without compassion can do nothing. She listened, wide-eyed, as if each word was a treasure. But outside the palace walls, the city did not rest. Rumors spread like wildfire. Some said the human was a savior, a miracle sent from the stars. Others swore he was a danger, a witch who would bring ruin. Families argued in the markets. Guards muttered in the barracks. Even nobles whispered in fear. And above them all, the High Council watched. The council gathered in a hidden chamber beneath the tallest tower. Their faces were covered by masks of silver, their voices low but sharp. The human threatens our control, one said. The people are divided. Division is weakness, another warned. If he becomes a symbol, rebellion will follow. They spoke of history, how once before, long ago, humans had touched powers that even the strongest aliens feared. That history had been buried, erased, forbidden. But now, before their very eyes, a forgotten truth had returned. He must be removed, a voice hissed. Quietly, before hope takes root, the council's decision was clear. The human would not live long. Back in the palace, Daniel felt the storm growing, though no one spoke it aloud. His instincts, sharpened by years of survival, whispered danger at every shadow. One night he stood on the balcony of his chamber, staring at the alien stars. They were cold and distant, yet in them he saw earth. Not the earth as it was now, but as it had been. The warm streets, the voices of children, the smell of bread. Memories burned inside him like fading fire. He whispered to the night, "I was only a man. How did I become this?" Behind him, soft steps echoed. The girl stood there, wrapped in a cloak. "You are not just a man," she said softly. "You are hope." Daniel turned to her. Her eyes shone with belief, not fear. It warmed him, but also frightened him. Hope was heavier than chains. The next morning, Lord Xylar summoned him. The great hall was empty except for them. "You have brought peace to my daughter," Xylar said. "For that I owe you more than I can repay. But know this, the council moves against you. They will come soon, and when they do, even I may not be able to protect you." Daniel met his gaze. "Then why warn me?" Xylar's face darkened. "Because I am not blind. I saw what you did. It was no curse. It was no trick. You hold something we have forgotten, and though I fear it, I also know. This world may need it." For a moment, silence. Then Xylar stepped closer, his voice low. "Survive, human. Survive even if I cannot save you." That night the storm broke. Shadows slipped into the palace, silent, swift, cloaked in black. The council's assassins. Their blades gleamed faintly, tipped with poison meant to end life instantly. They moved like ghosts, striking down guards in silence. The halls filled with whispers of death. Daniel awoke before they reached him. His body tensed, his breath steady. He knew this was coming. The first assassin lunged through the door. Daniel ducked, rolled, and caught the blade with bare hands. Pain cut into his skin, but he pushed back, energy flaring. Light burst from his palms, throwing the assassin across the chamber. The glow lit the hall, drawing the others. More came surrounding him, their masks shining in the dark. The girl screamed from the corridor. "Father Daniel!" Xylar's voice roared from the distance, guards rushing at his side. But the assassins were already inside. Daniel stood tall, his hands glowing faintly again. He felt the familiar weight pressing into him. The cost of power. He knew he could fight, but every use of his gift tore pieces of himself away. Still he faced them calm as ever. "You fear me because I heal," he said quietly. "But what will you fear when I fight?" The assassins charged, light flared. Steel clashed, shadows screamed. When it ended, smoke filled the chamber. Broken masks lay scattered on the floor. Guards stormed in, torches blazing. Xylar pulled his daughter close, his eyes wide as he stared at Daniel. The human stood in the center, blood on his hands, glow fading. His body shook, weak from the price he had paid, but his eyes burned with fire. For the first time, the people of Xerion would hear whispers not of witchcraft, but of something else, of a human who had faced death and stood unbroken. Outside, the council's tower glowed with dark light. Their voices echoed in fury. "He lives. He resists. Then war begins." Daniel looked at the girl, then at Xylar. His voice was tired but firm. "This is only the beginning."